You might have read the stories of Jim Corbett tracking man-eating tigers or leopards, mostly alone, often in the dark night in a forest, and killing the beast finally, like the man-eating leopard of Rudraprayag or the temple tiger. A lot of suspense which would definitely increase your heartbeat. However, did you know he wrote so many equally exciting stories about birds? Did you know in his books he described over 100 birds, their behavior, habitat, and many other things? This video series in the playlist Birds Described by Jim Corbett will tell you exactly these stories. Edward James Corbett, or popularly known as Jim Corbett, was born on 25th July 1875. As a tribute on his 150th birth anniversary, I have created this video series to introduce this ornithologist avatar of Jim Corbett. In the first episode as introduction video, I have covered his approach to birds and shared the list of birds he described. This is the second episode where I am covering my favorite bird, owls. A bird that can rotate its head up to 270 degrees, can see in pitch dark and kill its prey in the silence of night. What better bird to start the story with? And in the next episodes, I'll cover raptors and rest of the birds. Request you to watch all episodes to get the full view of his work on birds. He wrote about 5 types of owls in his books: horned owl, horned fish owl, spotted owlet, ground owl, and a mysterious creature, Churail, which he suspected as an owl. Let's talk about them one at a time. In the temple tiger, he planned to spend a night on a tree in forest, expecting the tiger to show up, giving him a chance to shoot. He narrated, "The whisper songs of the multitude of birds in the valley were hushed as the red glow from the setting sun died off the hills. Twilight deepened and a horned owl hooted on the hill above me." Horned owl mentioned here is none other than Indian eagle owl or rock eagle owl, Bubo bengalensis, which is seen in many parts of India. Let's hear the call of the owl and relate how Jim Corbett felt that moment. All calls played in this video were sourced from ebird.org. Then in jungle lore, he talked about shooting at birds, which may sound a bit brutal now, but was a common hobby then. Here also, he mentioned about horned owl. And there were birds to be fired at, hair-crested drongos, golden orioles, and rosy pastors that drink the nectar of the samal trees, common, slaty, and rose-headed paraquets that nipped off the samal trees and, after nibbling a small portion, drop the flowers to the ground for deer and pigs to eat. Crested pied kingfisher, who when disturbed went skimming up the canal, and always the horned owl, the mate of the one who lived on the far side of the board bridge, whose perch was on a branch of the peepal tree overhanging the canal, and who had never been known to let anyone get within catapult range, but who nevertheless was always fired at. He described the call and its effects of horned fish owl in the same book. He has just finished telling his most blood-curdling story, and the nervous girl had again admonished her companion not to look behind when the old horned fish owl, who spent all his days dozing on the dead branch of a tree roofed over with creepers, where he was safe from the attention of crows and other birds that loved to bait owls, started on his nightly quest for fish and frogs in the Boar River by giving vent to his deep-throated call of "Hu hut hu" from the topmost branch of the haldu tree that had been blasted by lightning and that was a landmark to those of us who, armed with catapult or butterfly net, ventured into the dense jungle in which it stood. The call of the owl, often mistaken by the ignorant for the call of a tiger, was answered by his mate, who, except in the mating season, lived in a peepal tree on the bank of the canal and was an excuse for Danse to end his ghost stories and switch over to stories about mudseas, which to him were even more real and more to be feared than ghosts. The horned fish owl would be between brown fish owl, Ketupa zelonensis, or tawny fish owl, Ketupa flavipes. Both are seen in Uttarakhand frequently. Let's hear their calls so that you can relate. First, brown fish owl. Next, tawny fish owl. From the call, it seems to me that brown fish owl's call is matching close to what Corbett mentioned as ho hut ho. Dusky eagle owl, Ketupa coromanda. And spot-bellied eagle owl, Ketupa nepalensis, are also seen there but are rare. Their calls are also different than ho hut ho that Corbett mentioned. In jungle lore, which is one of the finest narrations of the Indian jungles in the beginning of 20th century, he wrote about spotted owlet, Athene brahma, which is the most common owl we get to see in India. In a thicket below us, 20 or more white-eyed tits, white-winged bulbuls, and grey-headed flycatchers have found spotted owlet dozing in a leafy bower and are calling to companions to come and see what they have found. They know it is safe to approach and scream into the wise one's very ears, for only when he has young will he occasionally kill in daylight. And the owlet, on his part, knows that no matter how much he is feared and hated for his tormentors, he has nothing to fear from them, and that when they tire of their sport, they will leave him to his sleep. Since we heard the calls of other owls in this story, let me play the call of spotted owlet also. In the Talladesh Man-Eater, through words, he almost made us visualize a wildlife movie where an owl was trying to save its life from a falcon. We had beaten up to the north for a mile or so, collecting 30 more birds and a leopard, when a ground owl got up in front of the line. Several guns were raised and lowered when it was realized what the bird was. These ground owls, which live in abundant pangolin and porcupine burrows, are about twice the size of partridge, look white on the wings, and have longer legs than the ordinary run-up owls. When flushed by a line of elephants, they fly low for 50 to 100 yards before alighting. This, I believe, they do to allow the line to clear their burrows, for when flushed a second time, they invariably fly over the line and back to the spot from where they originally rose. The owl we flushed that morning, however, did not behave as these birds usually do. For after flying 50 to 60 yards in a straight line, it suddenly started to gain height by going round and round in short circles. The reason for this was apparent a moment later, when a peregrine falcon flying at a great speed came out of the forest on the left. Unable to regain the shelter of its burrows, the owl was now making a desperate effort to keep above the falcon. With rapid wing beats, he was spiraling upwards, while the falcon, on widespread wings, was circling up and up to get above his quarry. All eyes, including those of the mahouts, were now on the exciting fight. So I halted the line. It is difficult to judge heights when there is nothing to make a comparison with. At a rough guess, the two birds had reached a height of 1,000 feet when the owl, still moving in circles, started to edge away towards the big white cloud. And one could imagine the angels suspending their dance and urging it to make one last effort to reach the shelter of their cloud. The falcon was not slow to see the object of this maneuver, and he too was now beating the air with his wings and spiraling up in ever-shortening circles. Would the owl make it, or would he now, as the falcon approached nearer to him, lose his nerve and plummet down in a vain effort to reach Mother Earth and the sanctuary of his burrows? Field glasses were now out for those who needed them, and up and down the line excited exclamations in two languages were running. "Oh, he can't make it! Yes, he can! Only a little way to go now! But look, the falcon is grinning on him!" And then, suddenly, only one bird was to be seen against the cloud. Well done, shabash! The owl had made it, and while hats were being waved and hands were being clapped, the falcon, in a long graceful glide, came back to the simul tree from which he had started. Reactions of human being to any particular event are unpredictable. 54 birds and 4 animals had been shot that morning, and many more missed, without a qualm or the batting of an eyelid. And now, guns, spectators and mahouts were unreservedly rejoicing that a ground owl had escaped the talons of a peregrine falcon. I must confess, though it was a story written 100 years back, I felt as if it was happening right in front of my eyes, and I was also cheering for the owl and celebrated when it saved its life from the deadly falcon. I couldn't identify which species he mentioned as ground owl. My first guess was Australasian grass owl, Tito longimembris, but there was no record of it in eBird for Uttarakhand. Experts from Birdwatchers Society suggested few options. Little owl, Athene noctua, matches the behavior, but it is not reported in Uttarakhand, not seen in the lower elevation Jim Corbett was traveling. Most likely choice would then be the migratory short-eared owl, Asio flammeus. If viewers have any other thoughts, please share in the comments. Let us hear the call of short-eared owl to conclude this part of the story. For the next owl, let's treat it as a story with a puzzle to identify the bird based on the story described below. A story about Churail, which is a female spirit or ghost often depicted as a vengeful supernatural being. While everyone thought it was a Churail or a ghost, Jim Corbett thought it was an owl. What owl it was is yours to answer. Let's read the story. The Churail, the most feared of all evil spirits, appears in the form of a woman. Having cast her eyes on a human being, this woman, whose feet are turned the wrong way, mesmerizes her victims as a snake does a bird, and walking backwards, lures them to their doom. When the danger of seeing the woman threatens, the only defense against her wiles is to shield the eyes with the hands, any piece of cloth that is handy, or if indoors, to pull a blanket over the head. During all the years I have lived in Kumaun and the many hundreds of nights I have spent in the jungles, I have heard the churail only 3 times, always at night, and I have seen it only once. It was the month of March. A bumper mustard crop had just been harvested, and the village in midst of which our cottage is situated was alive with happy sounds. Men and women were singing and children were calling to each other. The moon was a night or 2 from the full, and the visibility was nearly as good as in daylight. Maggie and I were on the point of calling for dinner. The time was close on 8 p.m. when clear and piercing on the night air came the call of the churail, and instantly every sound in the village was hushed. In the right-hand corner of the compound, and some 50 yards from our cottage, stands an old haldu tree. Generations of vultures, eagles, hawks, kites and crows and glossy ivies have worn the bark off and killed upper branches of the old tree. Opening our front door, which had been closed against the cold wind blowing down from the north, Maggie and I stepped out onto the veranda, and as we did so, the churail called again. The call came from the haldu tree, and there, sitting on the topmost branch in brilliant moonlight, was the maker of the call, the churail. It is possible to describe some sounds by a combination of letters or of words, as for instance, the cooee of a human being or the tap-tap-tapping of a woodpecker, but no words of mine can describe the call of the churail. If I said it resembled the cry of a soul in torment or of a human being in agony, it would convey no meaning to you, for neither you nor I have heard either of these sounds, nor can I liken the call to any other sounds heard in the jungles, for it is something apart, something that does not appear to have any connection with our world, and that has the effect of curdling the hearer's blood and arresting his heartbeats. On the previous occasions on which I had heard the call, I knew it emanated from a bird, and I suspected the bird to be an owl, possibly a migrant, for I know every bird in Kumaun and its call, and this was no bird of our jungles. Stepped back into the room, I returned with a pair of field glasses which had been used during the Kaiser's War for spotting for artillery, and which were therefore as good as glasses could be. With these, I examined the bird very carefully. I'll describe what I saw in the hope that someone more knowledgeable than myself will be able to identify it. A. In size, the bird was a little smaller than a golden eagle. B. It stood upright on its rather long legs. C. Its tail was short, but not as short as an owl's tail. D. Its head was not round and big like the head of an owl, nor did it have a short neck. E. On its head there was no crest or horns. F. When it called, which it did at regular intervals of about half a minute, it put its head up facing the heavens and opens it big wide. G. In color, it was an overall black, or possibly a dark brown which looked black by moonlight. Such a fascinating story and depiction of nature. So what do you think? Was it a ghost like all others felt? Or an owl like what Corbett guessed? And if it is an owl, then what species of owl is that? My guess is spot-bellied eagle owl, Ketupa nipalensis. It was also endorsed by Birdwatchers Society experts. I have heard the call of spot-bellied eagle owl. It was creepy and it was scary. Yes, I repeat, it was scary. Especially if you hear it in a dark forest at night. I had few people with me. Then also I felt a bit uneasy. Let's hear the call. I suggest you close your eyes and feel as if you are alone in a dark forest at night and hearing this, and guess how will you feel? When I went to Pakyang near Gangtok in Sikkim, our guide Roychoudhury said similar stories about spot-bellied eagle owl, which is seen throughout the year. Villagers consider it as a messenger of death. It must have been much worse 100 years back when Jim Corbett wrote this story and thought the owl was Churail. To summarize, the owls he described, including our guest identification, are Indian rock eagle owl, brown fish owl, spotted owlet, then most likely short-eared owl, and finally most likely spot-bellied eagle owl. Please share your thoughts in the comments on the bird identification about the stories I narrated above. If you haven't watched the first episode where I shared the list of birds written by Jim Corbett, please check my channel and watch it now. Please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon for notification for future videos. Thanks for watching.